Welcome back to Science of Relevancy. Hi, this is your host, Rex Allen, and we're here to talk today about all the innovations and its impact on our world today. Whether you're a business owner or a sales and marketing type or a consumer, we're here to talk about all the technology and its impact on our world as we see it today. Today, I'm going to talk about gig economies and how do you thrive in a gig economy and what's happening out there. For many people, they're already doing this. Gig economies have been around for quite some time here, but there is a explosion of gig companies out there, and we want to talk about some of these, and then how do you thrive in this marketplace as someone who's participating in the gig economy. So let's talk for a couple minutes here about some of these organizations, what's happening, and the types of companies. Let's first look at the transportation space. Oh my goodness. You want to talk about a crowded field. Uber, started back in 2008, 2009. Lyft, and of course, the taxi and cab companies, they've been out here for 100 years kind of doing this, but they weren't really visible because they didn't have good apps and stuff. But anything that has to do with transportation, there is a crowd doing it. Uber and Lyft moving people, and then Uber has their Uber Eats where they're delivering food. There's a company out there that just delivers food, and that's DoorDash. Favor down in Texas, which will do just about any type of delivery. There's a bunch of those. Oh, and even Amazon Flex. Now, Amazon Flex has a program much like Uber and Lyft where you can come on board and deliver packages for them out of your car and then kind of do it on an on-demand basis. So the transportation space, a lot has to do with that because of the low entry. Some of those companies are struggling with regulation from the public utilities commissions from each of the states, but the game's not over there in any stretch. But there's a lot of gig economy companies out there. So I kind of did something just to make sure that everybody's on the same page. I forgot to do this. Gig economies are really where you have independent contractors who are working off of platforms to basically provide task-oriented services. Now, that task can be something as simple as providing a ride, but it can be doing PowerPoints, it can be developing logos and graphics, you name it. So, again, transportation space, very, very crowded. Then you go over to the more traditional ones like that have been around longer. Upwork, which has a wide range of professional services from programming to program management, admin type of work, stenography, all kinds of things. Fiverr, been out there for quite some time, and I've got them spelled twice there. Oh my goodness, I can't believe that. But Fiverr's been on the list here for quite some time. I think they've been around 6, 7 years. And that's mostly graphics, voiceovers. It's mostly creative type services. And then you have some interesting ones out there that are coming out, and this is kind of extension of transportation. Bellhops, that's basically movers. So if you're in shape and you're tough and you're strong and you want to move pianos and couches, bellhops is a situation for that. Um, then you have some more on the technical and oh wait, another one and task-oriented stuff is TaskRabbit out there. There's another one called Tackle out there in the marketplace. So lots of people doing things that are moving things, errands, cleaning your garage, vacuuming, running at task type stuff. Then you get into a little more of the professional ones. Now this is one I was kind of impressed with. It was Cloudflower. Cloudflower is actually science, research, and mechanical type tasks. So people doing tasks for projects. So again, it's not just low entry, no skilled labor. You can see things that are very high skilled labor. And then another one is Hello Tech. That one that I really like. Hello Tech is providing tech support services kind of on an on-demand basis. So you know how to do Microsoft Word or support a network or those types of things. So it's tech services. Freelancer, and then also Upwork kind of in the same place. So You can see it's all over the place as far as these partial task-oriented companies. Now, it's a really interesting market out there, what's happening. So now we're going to take a look at some of those types of companies. Let's look over here and let's talk about how do you thrive in this environment if you're going to participate in it. Now, there's a lot of research out there, and the numbers are all over the map as far as what the actual number of participants in the marketplace are. I've seen as high, and this is a quote from our friends over at Morgan Stanley Research, that within the next 10 years, that freelance workers may represent more than 50% of the U.S. working population. Now, that comes from Jessica Alsford over at Morgan Stanley. Jessica also says that the current freelancers represent about 35% of the U.S. workforce. Now, that's kind of the numbers on the high side. I recently read an article in The Economist that talked about the fact that maybe that percentage of workers is between 1 and 5%. The challenge out there that for estimating these numbers correctly is really the fact of how do you get in touch to find out how much work is being done on a freelance task orientation. Traditionally, companies report the number of employees they have, and that's where we get our federal unemployment and state unemployment numbers. But if these jobs are not visible and they're done by freelance contractors, I think it's really hard to get an accurate number. But regardless whether you want to believe it's 1 to 5% or as high as 35%, the fact is the trend is growing. And I do believe that if I were a college kid today, my recommendation to my college kids is find a skill that you can do to participate in the gig economy. You know, the advantages are so clear, being able to work when you want, how you want. It's a very interesting model. There is fear out there that this gig economy is going to wipe out traditional jobs with benefits and all those things there. So it's an interesting topsy-turvy world. It's an interesting time. But I want to talk to you about how do you thrive in a gig economy, because there are really some aspects here that are about 5 major aspects about how do you thrive. Now, let's start kind of in the food chain, because it's important for people to understand that it's a little bit different than working in an office, and you need to think through these things before you decide to participate in a gig economy, regardless of your skill set. So let's start out at the beginning of the food chain. Where it all starts is promotion and marketing. It's important that you get your name out there. And whether you're doing that through your own social media accounts or participating in one of these hub companies, like I've just explained on the previous slide. Recommendation for most people is to find multiples of those. And then once you're out there, that you write a very effective, clear and concise what your services are, what your strengths are. So that way you can attract different types of gigs that you really are interesting to you. You know, it's really difficult to do work that you don't have interest in and you don't have the right skill sets. So it's the first step, like anything else, is promotion and marketing. So that's a positive if you're good at promoting your skills and your services. That can be a challenge and a struggle for others who might be more technically oriented and not an extrovert or not really good at promoting themselves. So the first place to start would be in those markets and in those hubs, and to work getting yourself out. My recommendation is that you don't rely on one, that you do something around 3 to 5 of them. Now, there are thousands of these out there in the world today, and some of them are specific to different marketplaces, like I just found them the other day. That's Australia specific. So again, find your sweet spots with the different type of hubs and begin your promotion and marketing. But augment that through word of mouth, augment that through traditional things like social media, connections, networking. That's important. So the broader your net is in all of these types of channels, the better you're going to be. So that's the first one, is actually attracting the opportunities. Now, the second thing, it's all about delivery. And if you don't follow through, you're not going to make any money. So I caution people that when you do these types of gigs, because you're not sitting in front of the person who's accepting the work, that you need to be able to deliver and then also articulate how you delivered and how you've met the criteria. Now, some people are going to be easier to work with, some will be more difficult. But again, if you're a little bit ADD and a little bit helter-skelter, you want to really be able to hone in and focus on that delivery, and in most cases, over-deliver. Because if you don't deliver, all of these hubs and platforms have rating systems, and it'll get you. Okay. So those two obvious things. Now, place. This is really important. When people are used to going into an office space, they have a defined work area, whether it's a cubicle or a specific office or work group area. They have a place. And in that place, you go into work mode. Well, in a environment with a gig economy, that place generally is going to be working out of your home or possibly a rented space where you're doing executive level rental at one of these multi-tenant office locations. Now, why is place important? Well, people are creatures of habit, and we need to have routines that we get into. So, I've been working from a home environment for a good portion of my career, even when I worked with really big companies. And if you don't have a place where you can actually close the door, focus, and get into that work mode, that autopilot where you've got a routine and you are working it, that you are basically um, delivering and you're in and you're effective and you are in a place where you can focus on your work. If you're in a home and office environment and there's kids knocking at the door and somebody wants you to run errands and there's the refrigerator and oh my goodness, I might go down the hall and take a quick nap. I basically kind of counsel against those. And so for some people, working in a place might mean that you might need a third place, not your home, not an office, but your own space somewhere in a rented place where you can focus. And so place is important. Okay. The next aspect of this is, and it has to do with places, routine. So I didn't really list this out, is you got to get into a routine. Now, if you're working in an office, what do? You get up in the morning, you take a shower, you eat your breakfast if you are. You might stop at Starbucks on the way in, but you got a routine. When you get to the office, you hit the ground running, you hit your email, you have a routine that you've built in your place. Well, wherever your place is, whether it's a few steps down the hallway or it's in a rented place that you're at, you've got to have your routine. I have known many consultants and salespeople who work from home, technical people, where, oh my goodness, they look up and it's 4 o'clock and they haven't even showered. Well, you've got to do that type of stuff. You've got to have a delivery in your and routine for your place. Okay. The next one is purpose. And this is one that's not very obvious to everyone. And when you are working in a gig economy, reality is your work becomes your purpose. And if you don't have a purpose that's a little bit bigger than the tasks at hand, you might start to lose interest in this. And so purpose becomes really important when you are trying to build a career out of this and long standing. I bumped into people who are making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year working in gig situations, but they weren't happy because they really didn't have a purpose. So it's important to have one of those, and it's important to be able to buy into a purpose. Now, if your purpose is to be the world's best graphic designer with the fastest delivery, then it's something more than just doing tasks. If your purpose is to be the best delivery driver out there, well, then your daily activities are going to be more than just mundane. So again, it's about developing a purpose, kind of your own self mission statement, and being able to progress. Because most people don't want to do 2 years worth of experience repeated 25 times. So find a purpose, buy into it, own it, and make that part of your mantra so your task orientation does not become routine, boring, and you decide that this isn't working. Now, this last one may be the most important, and that's people. Human beings are social creatures. We've seen this forever. And the aspect of doing gig economy stuff for many people means that they're going to be isolated. Now, if you're doing delivery services and transportation, like the whole Uber, Lyft, cab, DoorDash, food delivery stuff, there's a lot of interaction with people, and there's a lot of people who enjoy that interaction for that. But if you're doing programming or marketing, design of materials or social media management or all kinds of tasks where you're really in an office, I don't care who you are, there is an element of people, well, except for the extreme geeks who really don't want to talk to anybody. But the fact is, people are social creatures. So most people who thrive in a gig economy and doing this type of work need to find some sort of substitute to get that social interaction. You just can't be a cave person working, 15, 18 hours a day and nonstop. You've got to be a person that gets some sort of social interaction. Now, let's talk about that for a second. What type of interactions could you look for? Well, there are all kinds of networking groups. Um, there are meetup organizations in marketplaces. Some people thrive on that from family interactions. Some people coach sports. There's lots of ways to get that social interaction. But it's one of the things you need to be cognizant of, and it has to be top of mind, in addition to these other aspects that, you know, if you just want to be isolated and live on the North Pole and hang out with the polar bears, well, maybe that's the kind of person that you would be able to lock yourself into a room, but you still need to have that social aspect. Even the biggest of programming guys and people I know that aren't really extroverts, they still need some people interaction. So those are the things that are important to focus on if you're going to be successful in the gig economy. I watch this marketplace a lot because I believe that we are going to see a permanent shift to this just because a lot of people, while they might have white collar professional skills, they probably prefer basketball shorts and flip flops and a t shirt to work in, and the fact that they can stop and go to the gym at lunchtime or run their kids on an errand and then get back to work. And so the flexibility and the be able to do your work when you want is really attractive. Um, the only downsides that I see long term will be how do people get their benefits and their retirement programs and those things. And so people need to run it as a business, and so it's important. So stay tuned. We're going to be talking about this on several shows. We're going to bring in some executives from some of these companies and talk about the trends. I'm going to line up some HR folks from traditional market companies who don't use this and what they see happening. So it's an important topic of innovation as we go forward. So think about this. If you're young in your career, I highly recommend this no matter what you're doing. So thanks for tuning in to the Science of Relevancy, and catch our next show, and we'll be talking about the continuous innovation that's happening and its impact on our world. Thanks, and make it a great day.